Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over some of the more important features that came in version 4.35 of Gems of War. If you want to see a full changelog of everything, the full list is in the description below. Of course, this is a bit of a smaller patch as they basically alternate between small patches and big patches. And of course, this one is the smaller one, and the previous one that they just did with the whole chat overwork, rework, and everything was the bigger one, and we'll have another big one probably in about another month or two. But let's go over some of the changes that ended up happening with this. There's basically or not gigantic, but the two biggest things that ended up happening is they ended up changing up how the settings menu is in its entirety. One being the in-game one, and one being how it is outside a game. So over here, there's two of them now. If you go click over your settings menu, or click escape on keyboard, or click the plus button on a controller, or the start button, I mean, it will bring you to this page now in battle, which has a lot of very useful information, some of which we haven't previously been able to see within a battle. So as you can see right up here, we now have a timer that now shows us how long our battle has been going for. This will be really good to keep track in game how long your battles have been going for. There's unfortunately no way to see this at the end of battle. However, of course, you can just bring this menu up right before the end of battle and tell how long your battle's gone. So instead of having to use some kind of external timing method, you can now time things within the game itself. Of course, if it's spanning across multiple battles, you might still want to use an external method. But as far as if you're just like testing a new PvP team and you want to see how quickly it runs against like your normal thing that you use for PvP, it'll be pretty good for stuff like that, and just kind of keeping track of how each individual battle will go time-wise. Other than that, of course, we have a bunch of other information that we can see now, some of which we already were able to see, of course, like souls, gold, and maps for ourselves. But we can also see now gold keys for ourselves. These are obtained at a % chance every single time we take a manual move, which is any of those swipes like that. It doesn't count all the cascaded stuff we get, or free gem spawn or anything like that, but if we specifically move a gem, that specific swipe right there and all those will have a chance of giving you a gold key, and you get a few of those per battles, potentially. And other than that, we also have tracking now for the kills that we end up getting. This is pretty good, as there are things that boost ratio off of kills, of course. There's things like Gargantar, there's things like the new Glut Maul that was recently added to the game, and now instead of having to figure out and keep track of the entire battle how many kills you ended up getting, the game will now keep track of it for you. So you don't need to worry about this. This was also why event gems were kind of working weirdly, because it caps at 60 apparently. So you can only end up getting 60 kills in the battle. Obviously you can get way more than that, but I guess it just bugs out a little if you do try going there, or properly caps now at 60. Other than that, we of course have some other additional information that we can now see. We now have Mana Mastery. Before you weren't able to see this for the enemy. Also, you weren't able to see your own. If there was something like a Jinx on the opposing team, you wouldn't be able to figure out what your percents ended up moving down to. Let's say if the enemy had one Jinx, our percents would go to about 40-something, 50-something from that Jinx, and we would have no way of knowing exactly what those percents were. And of course, now we can see what the exact percents are on the enemy team as well. And of course, this triggers every single time whenever we take specifically of that color. So for example, we have a yellow here, actually let's say this red, since we actually need that mana. So on that red, we of course can see we have a 64% chance to surge on it, whereas the enemy has a 26 as far as his. We didn't get that surge of a 64% chance that we have, but unfortunately. But at least we can now very easily see it, and if it gets manipulated by something, we'll also be able to see what it moved to. And of course, the other pretty important thing is now we can see the enemies. So if they're using something like a skeleton key team, we can see how much gold they have. If they're using any kind of gold boost ratio team, if they're using a map ratio team, if they're using something like a fair shroff or soul boost ratio and stuff like that, anything that they're boosting off of, we'll now be able to see those resources, and we won't have to just guesstimate how many they've gotten throughout the entire battle. So it's going to be pretty useful. So right here, of course, I'm just using something that will be able to keep track of kills. Every single time we transform, that does count as a kill, as you can see. We now have one kill. The enemy itself transforming does not count as a kill, only when we specifically do it to them. Oops, I just moved that wrong. Supposed to be an extra turn. But let's just go take a poke here. Since we know exactly how much damage he'll do with the extra 15, we never need to really guess on it. Same as our last troop now. We know exactly that he has a 35% chance, since every single kill counts as an additional 1 for him. So right here, we'll know exactly, since we have 2 kills, we have 35% chance that this will devour, and of course it doesn't devour because it's a pretty low percent chance. And as you can see, we had 2 kills and we still have 2 kills. It transforming does not count as a kill, but us transforming it does count as a kill. That's something that I think some people were slightly confused about in the past, but now that's actually really clear, since you can just tell after the ability themselves. But it only counts as a kill if and only if you're the one doing it to the enemy, not if you transform yourself. So the same thing applies to that of Delves, which is the most noteworthy part where that really comes into play. In Delves, if you transform on your own, let's say you're using like a peasant, or not the peasant, like the villager or that werewolf or something, if they transform back into each other, that doesn't count as you dying. But if you end up doing something like the enemy transforms one of your troops, then that will count as a death for pure faction. So now that's a little bit easier to tell that that is actually happening, since you can actually see the values of it. Next up, let's just go and test out the other two. Just trying to mess around with the troops that ended up coming in as far as like the trooper-related balance. That one didn't specifically have any, but these two do. There was some troop balance. Most of it was pretty relevant. However, there were two somewhat noteworthy ones. One being Wolf Garrick. Wolf Garrick's previous trait was give all war gears 5 attack and 5 magic. Now, every single time you get an extra turn, it'll give all war gears 2 attack and 2 magic, basically meaning it'll initially have lower effect. However, if you end up getting 3 extra turns, it'll overall have more value than it previously had. So, yeah, a little bit of a slower start. However, if your battle's going on a little bit longer, or if you have some kind of loop on your team, it'll overall be much higher than it previously was. So that's going to be pretty nice. As you can see here, every single extra turn, we just get another 2 attack and magic to all of our war gears. Unfortunately, there's still no viable war gear team in the game. That still hasn't changed, unfortunately, even with this change to Wolf Garrick. But at least now he'll be able to get his damage up a little bit better, which will allow him to secure the kills, because before he was pretty bad at getting kills, and honestly he's still pretty bad at getting kills. This didn't really change him too much, but of course as more war gears are added to the game, it's going to become a little bit more viable. Definitely a nice change for him. They did not, however, make this change to Tesla for whatever reason, but they did give it to Wolf Garrick with his higher stats that he can now gain. So we're at 31. That's still not enough to get a kill on this. Did an easier battle just so it wouldn't take as long, but apparently he still wants to take a little bit longer. But he'll just keep doing his thing. If nothing else, they'll kill themselves out with their little hits that they end up doing. Let's see, do we have alignment here? It doesn't look like it. At this point, I might as well take a skull, do true damage, just instantly kill that. And of course, the extra attack that we keep giving him will be able to help him have even more, since he can one-shot stuff. And this should be able to double kill at this point. And we just go double kill with that, and we'll just go get it with one more skull, and that should be a match. Anyway, we can take a skull. It doesn't look like it, so we'll throw that again until we can. Now do we have a skull? Well, we'll just go Wolf Garrick it then. But yeah, he just keeps getting his stats now instead of just up front. Is it really viable? No. But will it be in the future? Probably. We just need better war gears added to the game, and then we can start using stuff like that. And finally, they ended up doing a slight buff to Tankbot. He now does true damage rather than doing physical damage. This allows it to synergize a little bit better with Tina, as well as to true damage mech teams, which seem to be becoming a thing all of a sudden. The last few mechs that they've been adding, like Tina as well as the Shocktopus, they seem to have true damage on it, and a lot of mechs are seeming to move towards that direction of being based on armor, which they kind of already were, but now they actually have things that boost ratio off of armor, as well as having true damage attached to them now. So that's a pretty nice change. If they keep doing that, mechs might finally become viable. Of course, not too many good mech teams out there at the moment. Something like this is about the best we're really getting at the moment. But of course, now one thing that's kind of nice about Tankbot is no longer do you accidentally get rid of their armor value with their attack. Like normally, this would obviously not kill this. What would normally have happened is it would end up doing physical damage on top of that instead of true damage, which if it still had armor left would basically get in the way of you actually being able to steal armor the following time. But now Tankbot can properly keep stealing the armor, since you can just build your entire team with no physical damage, whereas before he was doing physical damage, which kind of was counterproductive to the fact that he was stealing armor to begin with. Because anything that doesn't steal all armor, you would obviously want some kind of follow-up they can do with it. You'd still want them to have armor if you're only stealing a partial amount of armor. And before, he was basically, with his physical damage, taking away all the armor that you could have potentially had. And of course, Tina indirectly also ended up getting a buff, not specifically in this patch, but between the two patches, ended up getting a buff where she no longer misses any of her attacks. So between that, mechs have gotten a little bit better. They're still a little bit underwhelming, but give it another several months and hopefully a few more Donna troops and stuff, and it should hopefully be operational. But yeah, for whatever reason with Tina, they did not actually buff it. That would actually been a nice, or not Tina, with Tesla, I meant to say. With Tesla, they haven't actually changed her ability to be like how they just did with Wolf Garrick. Of course, they both had a similar ability. Wolf Garrick used to be 5 attack to all, and 5 magic to all war gears, whereas this does 5 attack and 5 armor to all mechs. However, they didn't make this 2 attack and 2 armor to all mechs, which they would, because then we could put Tesla there and then have a somewhat okay team, kind of. We'd still need a replacement for Tankbot eventually. But yeah, that's one small change, just that Tankbot change. And other than that, just to go show it real quick, let me just go get, did I not set it up? I don't think I did. Let me go get a team set up real quick just with 4 Jinx. And then we can also see that our mana will go down. So of course, normally if we just go into a battle, If we just go into any random battle, doesn't really matter, we could go lose it real quick. So if we go into this battle real quick, you can see that our percents are as follows. We end up having around 64, 66%, all that good stuff. But if we're up a team that has a bunch of jinx, we can now see that it actually moves downwards. So for example, if we were to go to our defend, and how about we change this to anything with jinx? Doesn't matter what it is. Actually, Kathy ended up getting, or Catherix ended up getting a buff too. Kind of funny that I picked her. Her bottom value now is also increased. It's pretty irrelevant, but she did technically get buffed. But now that we're doing this, let me just go show this real quick. So as you can see, he has 4 jinx on his team, as you can see by that middle trait right there. And this now moves our mastery all the way down to apparently 22%. So that's the effect of 4 jinxes. Obviously, jinx is multiplicit, not additive. So basically, it keeps doing 50%, and another 50%, and another 50%, and so on and so forth. And it's taking from the actual mastery number, not the percent itself. So obviously, if it was taken from the percent itself, it would be down to like 15% or so. But it's actually moving down the number itself, which is not visible here, though the effective percent is visible here. But basically, this is what happened with us getting jinxed 4 times. So basically, our mana mastery was cut in half, then it was cut in half, then it was cut in half, and then it was cut in half. And this was basically the result of our percents. This is what it normally is, and that is what it is after 4 jinx, apparently. And yeah, now we can easily see that. So as well as if we only have, let's say, 1 jinx on the opposing team, if we just retreat from this battle, we can end up seeing the exact effect of what something like that would end up having on us if we go to our defend. Place this with anything that doesn't have jinx. How about a bunch of I don't have that many copies. There, let's go with that. Doesn't matter what we have there. And now if we do this with only 1 jinx on the opposing team, we'll end up seeing that it has probably around a 50-something%. And now it's a lot easier to be able to see all of these values within the battle. Wait till the jinx actually triggers. And there we go. So as you can see, that reduces us down to barely anything. 1 jinx does almost nothing. Once you start getting to like 2 or 3, it really starts having quite a bit of effect. But there's no really viable teams at the moment that could stack that many. Especially since they got rid of it on Famine. But as you can see, that's basically what 1 jinx does to us. It just reduces not the percent itself, but it reduces the mastery number by 50%. And then it goes into a formula, and then that formula brings out this percent thingy. But anyways, we could easily see that now. Other than that, there were a few other changes, as I mentioned. They did change up the settings menu ever so slightly. They added controller sensitivity as well. Basically what this is about what it was at before as far as the sensitivity on it. So if we bring up our controller real quick, it basically just affects how quickly your little cursor moves around the board. So as you can see right here, our cursor's moving at, this was basically the speed it used to move at. It's relatively slow. And if we end up changing it up to be higher now, we go all the way down here and put it all the way to max, we can see it'll move way quicker now. So this is what you can do now and move around the board way quicker than you previously would have been able to now with a controller. So it's not as glacially slow as it previously would have been. So that's pretty nice. Other than that, as far as the rest of the settings menu is concerned, it's pretty much the same as always been. The only other noteworthy change that really happened here is they fixed up some stuff with the account settings. They also made it a little bit clearer that you're not really deleting your account if you end up replacing one with the other. So let's say that you are currently running with 2 accounts and you want to keep switching between them. You can, of course, have both of them registered and keep switching between them on one device. Before, it's, the wording that they had almost made it seem like you would delete the account. Of course, that's not actually the case. As long as you have both of them registered, you can just constantly keep switching between them, even on the same platform, if you so choose. So they end up clarifying some of the text with that. I don't want to click on any of these because 2 of them show email and password stuff, so I don't actually want to click on that. But of course, all that stuff is a little bit clearer and a little bit easier to use now. And other than that, they basically just have a bunch of help stuff here. Some of this was already in game, some of it wasn't. There's a bunch of useful stuff. I will be covering a independent video going over this a little bit more so third-party stuff, because this only shows most of the first-party stuff, like the forum, their website, their social media, stuff like that, their own support systems. But it does bring in a nice little feature, though, that submit a ticket. This, of course, is something that you would normally do to end up contacting the devs. It used to only be able to be done through their website. I believe this still goes to their website if you end up clicking on it, but there was no way in-game to actually specifically go there. They just had to kind of tell you, hey, just go to their website and just click on this and then go over there. But now you simply just click on submit a ticket and boom, you're already there. So that's a lot clearer, and this whole page is a little bit more useful than it previously was. It doesn't show third-party stuff, but still, overall much better than what it previously was. And other than that, there is one other small thing that is somewhat relevant, and that has to do with the fact of how controller now interacts with this new settings menu. So of course we ended up getting a new settings menu, but this allows controller to do something a little bit different that it wasn't able to before. The previous settings menu, what you had to do on controller is you had to go all the way down to the bottom, and then basically you would have a quit button, which would allow you to retreat from the battle. But now, instead of having to do that, what you can do is simply click the start button, click retreat, and then just simply go right into the yes. And you can end up retreating that way. This might not seem like much of a difference, but it actually saves like 3 to 5 seconds on retreating if you're using controller. So a little bit of extra controller optimization there as well. But anyways, that is pretty much everything that I wanted to go over. Oh wait, did I not show the mech team? Never mind, there is one other thing I wanted to go show. Oh wait, never mind, I showed the mech team. But yeah, that's basically everything I wanted to show. If you guys have any other questions about the patch, let me know in the description. I'll probably be messing up around with some of the other rebalance as well throughout the week. Most of it was pretty trivial though, which is why I didn't bother showing it in this video. But if you still have any other questions about any of it, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. And I will see all of you later. Goodbye, everyone!